Carroll bringing it forward. Thompson's making the run. Carroll hangs on to it though. Still Davy Carroll. Could go all the way here. Oh, what a goal!
I don't know what it is that makes me love you so. I only know I never wanna let you go. 'Cause you started something, don't you see? That ever since we met you had a hold on me. It happens to be true. I only wanna be with you.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Ringing the Blues, the official Wycombe Wanderers podcast. On the show this week, we have all the action and reaction from the game against Fleetwood Town at Adams Park on Saturday. We have news of some pub benches in the Chairboys Village, courtesy of the official Wycombe Wanderers Supporters Association. Plus, Kristján Sturluson is this week's subject on Till Death Us Do Part. But first, let's head to Mexico City for the full Liga Juan results with Uri.
We are ringing the blues from Mexico City. It's me, Uri, with a little bit of a sore throat. And here are the results for League 1. Barnsley 1, Exeter City 2, Blackpool 1, Charlton Athletic 1, Bristol Rovers 3, Oxford United 1, Cambridge United 0, Burton Albion 0, Carlisle United 1, Bolton Wanderers 4, Derby County 2, Cheltenham Town 1, Lincoln City 0, Peterborough United 0, Northampton Town 0, Shrewsbury Town 2, Port Vale 0, Portsmouth 1, Reading 1, Leyton Orient 1, Wigan Athletic 2, Stevenage 3, Wycombe Wanderers 2, Fleetwood Town 2. Okay, so tying against Fleetwood Town, the last one in the ranking? Okay, now I am a little bit worried because with just one win in 17 league games now, these are tough times. So, Chairboys Spanish this week, these are tough times. Okay, time, tiempo, time, tiempo. These, estos. These are, estos son. Tough. Well, tough can be translated as difícil o duro. Difícil as in difficult and duro as in hard. So, estos son tiempos duros. Okay, hope we get back on track and smiles upon our faces as springtime cometh soon. Back to England with my amigo Filiberto Cachapollos. Until next week, adios.
Cheers, Uri. Rest your voice for next week. Right then, Wycombe Wanderers took on bottom of the table Fleetwood Town at Adams Park on Saturday. Could they batter the Cod Army?
Wiredu down the line, finds Johnston. Johnson cuts it back, low, heads clear. Drops down to Mayer. Mayer finds Boys. Boys in the box, drills it across the face of the goal, and it's there. Cherry slides in at the back post. Boys with the assist, and that goal has been coming. Yeah, tricks his way past Taylor, goes back now to Josh Earl, who gets through McCleary. Out wide now to Johnson. Johnson crosses in right footed. That's a good ball to the back post. And it's there, it's number 2, Stockley. Has doubled the score for Fleetwood Town. Stockley beating Leahy at the back post and heading past Striak. And it's Wycombe 0, Fleetwood 2. And the boos are ringing out around Adams Park. And it goes now towards Tapazzoli. It's headed clear though by Stockley. Cherry has the ball on the right hand side. Bursting his way through a couple of challenges. Doesn't get away from Wheeler. Oh, and he's been booked on Cherry before, and he's left a late one in on Wheeler, and he's off. Promise Cherry there is off. A chink of light for Wycombe Wanderers. 2 yellow cards for Promise Cherry, who opened the scoring this afternoon. He overran the ball. Wheeler got there first, and he left his boot in Cherry, And on a yellow card, you just cannot do that, Toby.
No, you really can't. And I'm a Cherry, pardon the pun. He looked promising as well for Fleetwood. He had been really good in the first half. So this is maybe just the extra kick that we need to get us back into gear.
Goes long to Vokes. Vokes heads down to Taylor. Taylor, great save from Lynch. Wycombe's best move of the game by far. Crossfield pass, expertly headed down by Vokes. Taylor ran onto it, and you have to say Jay Lynch has pulled out a really good save there. McCleary. Taylor into the box now, cuts it back to Campbell. Campbell on the turn. Big shot for handball. Wycombe have got a penalty. Campbell's shot is blocked by Hennigan, I think. And is that, what colour card is that?
Yellow, I
A
think.
yellow. It was held at an angle where I couldn't see it. Well, I could see the referee producing something. And is that Hennigan who's been booked? I think it is. Luke Leahy then to take the penalty. His last one was saved on Boxing Day against Exeter City. Wycombe Wanderers a lifeline in this game. Something to build upon perhaps. Leahy has to score against Lynch. 53 minutes on the clock. Penalty after Chem Campbell's shot hit the arm, we think, of Hennigan, as Leahy now takes the steps back up against Lynch in front of the terrace. It's saved and goes out for a corner. Leahy went to the keeper's right low. Lynch got down and for the second time in as many minutes has pulled out a fantastic save to frustrate Wycombe Wanderers. Potts, edge of the area, puts it in at a slightly better angle from the short corner, headed clear. Leahy, cross comes in again, this time looking for Lowe, gets up and is beaten away by the keeper again. Big shout for handball. Is it another penalty? It is. Wycombe have a second penalty in the game. McCleary with the penalty then. Right-footed against Lynch. Can Wycombe finally find the way through in the 61st minute? Gareth McCleary scores into the roof of the net. Wycombe Wanderers have half the deficit. G-Mac from the penalty spot. And Wycombe Wanderers have finally found their way through the door that they've been rapping their knuckles on repeatedly since half-time. And what the 10-man Fleetwood have here? And can Wycombe continue in this vein? Grimmer to Joe Lowe. Now Potts. Potts pings it to Leahy. Leahy left-hand side. Finds Sadlier. Sadlier now, first time we've seen him in the opposition final third. Ball cut back on the left foot, charged down by Broom. Corner to Wycombe. Corner number 9. Taken short to Leahy, left-hand side. Back to Sadlier now. Sadlier picks across to the back post. Tabazoli gets up, off the line by Wimadoo. Taylor back in, and it's there! Offside flag goes up. The joy of Richard Kone is extinguished immediately. Taylor headed it back into the 6-yard area. It was turned home by Kone. The offside flag was raised. Tapazoli to Leahy. Leahy, crossfield pass, looking for Vokes. Vokes down to Kone in the box, then Vokes. Then Kone! There's the goal! The first of many, you'd have to say. Richard Kone, right-footed, buries it past Lynch. His first league goal. What a story. Wycombe Wanderers have pulled it back to 2-2 with 8 minutes to go. Can they go and get the winner? And there goes the full-time whistle. The boos still ring out around Adams Park. The 2 second-half goals have rescued a point for Wycombe Wanderers.
Gaffer, a disappointing afternoon. Your take on the game?
Yeah, first half wasn't good enough. Disappointing performance from us. Nowhere near the level that we need to be at. Nowhere near the level that we have been at recently, to a degree. So gave ourselves a mountain to climb, and we have to look for the reasons as to why that happened. And we have to make sure that we're better on Wednesday evening when you come out here. But second half, the character of the group, the way that they kept fighting, even after a missed penalty, to go and find another way to get themselves back into the game, was obviously, shows the fight of the group. But we have to make sure we're better. That first half performance wasn't good enough.
Where did it come from? Because it was unrecognisable from recent performances, and it belied the table.
Yeah, it was. Where did it come from? It was frustrating from our sides. It looked like there was a bit of a hangover, if I'm honest, from from Tuesday evening. Maybe the boys had got themselves too fired up. It just looked like there was a little bit of anxiety in the air, and we just weren't performing to the level that we need to. So that's on me. It has to be better, and we have to look for the reasons why and correct that quick.
Is there a lack of confidence possibly as well?
I don't know about lack of confidence. Like I say, maybe it was the disappointment from Tuesday hanging over. I felt like there was good noise around the training ground the last couple of days. The boys were buoyant going into the game. Obviously, when you're not winning games as regularly as what you would like to be, then there's a possibility there could be a lack of confidence. But like I say, to fight back the way they did second half, to create the number of chances we did second half, to even ride the disappointment of the missed penalty and still find a way to get themselves back in the game, shows the fight of the group.
What's your message to the fans? The frustration was evident in the first half after each goal and at the half-time whistle as well. What's your message to those guys? They're clearly feeling the results.
Yeah, they are, and I feel for each and every one of them because, supporters of our football club are the lifeblood of us as a club. They always have been and they always will be, and I feel for them because, they're obviously frustrated and I understand why. I absolutely understand why. It's on me to give them some more good times to cheer. It's on me to make sure we're better than what we were in the first half. And I shoulder that responsibility. But we're working as hard as we possibly can. We hope to do a couple of bits this week that will help us improve.
Wednesday night's a cup game. A competition that's been a really nice distraction for Wycombe this season. Can that be a springboard for Cheltenham?
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, we're in a quarter-final of a cup competition, so that should add a spring to the step of the players, absolutely. It offers a welcome distraction, so we have to make sure we prepare for that, as we always have in that competition and for every game, and we have to look to win the game.
And a real positive today, Richard Kone, first league goal, a fabulous moment in anyone's career, but great for Richard to get off the mark.
Yeah, we really believe in Richard. We're trying to play down the expectation on him because he's a young lad who's finding his feet in the professional game, so we have to manage that with him. But he's got huge desire. He came and had an impact on Tuesday night, lands on something, nearly scores. Landed on a couple more things today, puts one in the back of the net. So we fought really hard to secure him to the contract that we did for our football club. We have to make sure that the football club comes at the forefront of our minds at all times, which it does. He's showing some promising signs.
And a message for the fans as well. What's there for them to look forward to in this coming week? Cup quarter-final, then a local away game. You need them with you, right?
Absolutely, of course we do. I understand their frustration. I totally understand it. We're not going to sugarcoat it. The first half wasn't good enough, but the second half, the fight and desire that the players showed to get the 2 goals, and ultimately we wanted to win today. We wanted to win. We wanted to give them a win to cheer and a good performance. We weren't good enough first half. I understand that, and I take that. We want to have a good week. Quarter-final of the cup competition. We're working hard behind the scenes to see if we can improve the squad and take a step forward. And we have to keep believing. We have to keep fighting. And I understand their frustrations, but we're fighting and doing everything we can to improve our current position.
You said after the last round of this cup that it's time to take it serious or to get serious. It's been a squad game up to this point. Are you going to go strong Wednesday? Yeah,
absolutely. I think we have done. I probably regret making that comment because it didn't come out the way I probably meant it at the time. We've taken it serious. You look at our teams, the teams we've put out in the competition, the team sheets every time. It's been as strong as we can, considering their parameters. We have to. We have to take it seriously. It's a quarter-final of the cup competition and we're looking forward to it.
The thoughts of Wycombe Wanderers manager Matt Bloomfield after the full-time whistle at Adams Park against Fleetwood. But what did the Cod Army travelling fans think? Here's the opposition view. Alex.
I wouldn't have complained at a point before the game, but for Christ's sakes, we're the worst team in the league, and yet we were 2 goals up. Then we start giving away penalties like they're sweets. As much as I'd love to give the team support all the time, it's their turn to show some support for the fans. For a team that's rock bottom of the league, there aren't many positives to take away from throwing away a 2-goal lead.
Nappers.
So So much went against us today. Boys getting injured, having to change personnel, Promise getting sent off 2 minutes before half time, 2 penalties against us, having 10 men for 52 minutes of play. But we battled and got a point, so I won't complain at the effort or performance, although the result is gut-wrenching to take.
Mick Wright.
When luck is against you, not a lot can be done. If we'd had 11 players all game, we'd have won that easy.
Darren Dickinson.
I noticed we didn't use any game management to slow it down or fake injuries, so the pressure was endless after the sending off. Dark arts are a basic part of the game now.
Jonathan Toombs.
Oh, well, I enjoyed the first half. Cogden looked lively, and so did Boys and Promise. But after losing Boys and then Promise to a red card in the first half, that was always going to happen. I thought Lynch was decent today, though. A few good saves, and he saved a pen.
Jay Barker.
Silver lining? We got a point. It's been so long since that happened, I'd forgotten what it felt like. Obviously would have preferred 3.
George Ellaby.
Sending off changed the game. And we haven't had a penalty awarded against us in about 2,500 minutes all season. then Wycombe get 2 in 10 mins against us.
Football Mads 21.
The referee was an absolute disgrace today. If he were fair with both teams, I would accept the decision making, but he was blatantly biased and cost us the game. When are the refs going to be held accountable? They should have to be interviewed at the end of the game. Shame on him.
FTFCJA.
I'm not sure if it's the 8 Jaeger bombs that I had at 11:30 or not, but in my opinion, that ref were decent and made decisions that I couldn't really argue about throughout the match.
Dave Walsh.
No team in any league will survive if they concede at least 2 goals every game. We are so poor defensively, and that has never been resolved all season.
Now, if you were at the Chairboys Village before the game against Fleetwood, you may have noticed 5 lovely new pub benches. They've been donated by the official Wycombe Wanderers Supporters Association and assembled by the volunteers. We spoke to the OWWSA chairman, Alan Hodgson, to find out more about these lovely tables.
The last committee meeting we had with OWWSA, which of course is a supporters association, it was brought up there wasn't much in the way of seating out here, outside the marquee. So I asked if I would have a look into it. And as happens, the church that Margaret and I go to purchased 3 of these beasts a few months ago. So I had a look at them and they seemed pretty sound. I looked into them and everything's going for them to be in this place. The merits are they're made of recycled plastic, totally recycled plastic. So they don't rot, they don't split, they don't discolour. And I say they call them beasts because actually they're about 200 weight each, about 1/10 of a tonne. So when the wind blows, they're not going to go walkabouts. So anyway, I went back to the committee. I said, well, I can get 5 of this for this price. They said, fine, go ahead. So it all went through. They were delivered a couple of days ago. Today we've been putting them together. And I think everyone's going to agree it's going to be good seating down here from now on.
Well, they're pretty heavy. They're eco-friendly. What's not to like?
Yes.
All we need is a beer, really, don't we, to test it out?
Well, I can arrange that. Yeah, we can do anything down here.
You said about the funding. Where has this money come from specifically?
Right. OWWSA has an account with money in. We make donations every year to various bits of the football club, such as the chair girls. We gave them money so I could purchase heavy weather gear. We bought medical things for up the training ground in the facilities up there, and we try and do it so we have something that's visible and benefits either the players and or the supporters. So, I mean, there's no point in buying 6 tins of paint, because that's neither here nor there, but the likes of this, people at least notice them. And when they see these little plaques, they'll see it's donated by the members. That just comes from things like the bingo night, the quiz night, etc. With the coaches, as often as not, we do make a little bit of a profit, not always, but we do make some, which builds up, and we're giving it back to the club in various ways and means, which, say, does benefit the players and or the supporters. And this time we thought this was a good idea. They spend a bit of money, but worth it, as given some back support, which in effect the supporters themselves have actually paid for. So that's how it goes.
And how do people join OWWSA? You're always looking for members?
Well, we're always looking for members, and we're always looking for people to come on the coaches. Numbers have gone down. They've recovered since COVID in the last 3 years, but they're still pretty low. But the numbers are coming up, but always looking for people on the coaches. It's a cheap way of doing it. Get into a match and back. You're dropped at the door, picked up at the door. Wonderful atmosphere on the coach, of course. Biscuits, of course, whilst you're there. And to book, you can either do it online, bank transfer, go into reception before each match, where Margaret and someone else will be in there taking bookings. And to become a member, it costs, I think it's now £12. The benefit of being a member, one of the benefits is that if you're a non-member to go in on the coach, it will cost you an extra £5. So if you're a member, you're saving a £5. It doesn't take long to get your 12 quid back. Two and a half journeys if you want. And of course, all this money is all going into our little account, from which we can do things like this. And we've got about 160, 170 members, which does show actually the fact that coaches normally, we can be 40, 50 people perhaps on a coach out of this 160 odd members. So there are obviously people putting into OWWSA, paying the membership, not necessarily going on the coach. It's just their goodwill, they're giving money because they know if you put it into OWWSA as a membership, then it will land up going back to a deserved cause that's beneficial to the club, you know.
And how is it on all these away days? Because you're there every game. You know, we don't win them all, obviously. It was a bit of a choker on Tuesday night, the last-minute goal. How is it on the bus on the way back after that?
Well, one thing is, if you do go on the bus, likes of Tuesday night, when you're on the way home, when you're crying, you are crying amongst 50 other people, rather than just you yourself and your little mini or something, you know. But no, it's good. I mean, we've. The atmosphere is a bit sombre when you first get on, but by the time you're going down and everyone's having a bit of a laugh and another cup of tea and what have you, and I just treat it as a day out. It's a bonus if we do win, obviously. Not the end of the world if we don't, and not. So Margaret and me run them, and we enjoy doing it. We wouldn't do it if we didn't, and so no, it's good atmosphere on the coach. So no one's ever said anything against it. Put it that way.
And you also head up all the volunteers as well. These tables have been built by the volunteers. We've seen how complicated it was. A lot of screwing involved. Say the least.
I'm glad we got electric drills, and otherwise my supervision would have been a bit different. But I sort of head up the volunteers. Just I suppose I've got the work list of what we need to do, and I go and get the paint so we can do it most of the time. But altogether, we've got about a dozen. The Tuesday gang is normally a bit more, 6 or 7, whereas they change over a bit. And so today we've got about 5 or 6 of us. And through time we work up, we do all sorts of jobs. Most of them go unnoticed, which is fair enough, don't expect them to. And as happens last week or the week before, we keep a registry of signing in and out, of course, a tally. And since we come out of COVID, March 21, we've just passed the 10,000 hours. So, and our list of jobs is up sort of 350, something like that. So we got a nice little bit of fellowship going as well. We're all old, of course, you know, well old. And we look after each other, occasionally go out for lunches together, go to the theatre. And if anyone is a little bit sick or something like that, well, we back them up, you know, phone them up, email, whatever. And it's a nice little gang. Happy, you know, happy.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, Thursday evenings from 7.
The Wycombe Wanderers show is now in its 4th season, and as you'd expect, we'll continue to bring you match analysis and highlights from Phil.
You might enjoy this, Jack. Rona Grimmer's been, yes, come on you Blues. Love hearing Jack's commentary while his wife, father-in-law and his mum move house for him. Jack.
Again, absolutely thrown under the bus. We'll regularly hear from manager Matt Bloomfield.
Of course, there's technical and tactical stuff that we've been working on that we would like to see, but in terms of what I want to see and have to see, it's all about the hard work, togetherness and team spirit, and everything else comes off the back of that.
As well as members of the current team.
You know, we have discussions about how we're going to do it better, and I think the only way you can do that is by keep practicing, keep learning, and hopefully then we'll get better and better with it.
And ex-players.
Everyone says as fast as I probably run, and they're probably right. Yeah, it's just a emotion-fueled moment there, really. Just, it was great, because my dad is one of those people that gave me a lot of stick about not scoring as well, so I just wanted to see him and rub it in.
We'll bring you news from in and around the club, continue to follow Wycombe Wanderers women, and some things you wouldn't expect.
Too much? Too much or not enough?
Tell the orchestra they can go now. And don't forget you can catch up with the show via the podcast.
The Wycombe Wanderers Show, only on Wycombe Sound.
We could use this time to tell you that 89% of the UK population tunes into the radio every week, and every £1 spent on radio advertising delivers twice the audience of any other medium.
Or we could fill this spot with your advert. Wycombe Sound has a range of bespoke packages tailored to suit your budget and options to either create or send us your advert. Plus a 10-minute interview to plug your company.
For more information, go to wycombesound.org.uk or give us a call on 01494 44 9900.
Advertising with Wycombe Sound has never been easier.
This is Wycombe Sound.
It's till death us do part. It's the point in your life. You choose your football team and they're yours forever. For richer, for poorer, for better, for worse. When you're winning, when you're losing, you get the idea. It's based on the old wedding saying, something old, something new, something borrowed and something blue. And we get to find out about some of our wonderful fans across the world, not just in Buckinghamshire, but everywhere. And we're going international again this week. After Scotland last week, we're going to Iceland. Kristján Sturluson, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Very well, mate. Good to see you, to have this conversation. We've met several times down the years through Wycombe Wanderers. I've been excited to speak to you about this because it's the age-old question, Kristján. Why Wycombe Wanderers for a man from Iceland?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and a question I often get asked. To start off, English football has always been hugely popular in Iceland, and I think when the national television started televising during the late 60s, one of the first things that they broadcast was old or week-old tapings of football matches from England, and I think that sort of got maybe in our DNA or something. So English football has always been hugely popular in Iceland, and the biggest newspaper in Iceland, it didn't come out on Sundays or Mondays, so the Tuesday edition had a really big sports section, and on the last page they showed the football standings in the major leagues across Europe, but for England they showed all the divisions. And this was like something holy, reading the big sports edition on Tuesdays. And me and my mate, we used to always check on the standings in all the leagues across Europe. And there was this name that caught our eye. It was a peculiar name, Wycombe Wanderers. We didn't know how to pronounce it. And then, of course, as everyone knows, I mean, Wycombe came from non-league to Division 3, to Division 2, and just missed out on a playoff spot. And me and my mate, we actually wrote the club, I think it was in 95 or 96. And the club sent us a reply and gave us a match day program. And that sort of, got us hooked.
Wow. So it goes all the way back to the mid-90s, a glorious period in our history. It just goes to show you that someone doing a small thing like sending a program can have such a massive impact, because here we are in 2024. I know you've been to see Wycombe Wanderers in the flesh. You've been to Wembley, you've been to Adams Park. You're sat there wearing a vintage Wycombe Wanderers shirt as well. And that one person who set in that programme has started all of this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing.
So let's talk about your shirt you're wearing. I can just see the top bits. Is this FA Cup run shirt, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Avec one. Yeah.
Mm. Fantastic. Do you have many Wycombe shirts in your collection?
Yeah, I'm actually an avid shirt collector. For me, and especially being like a fan far away, the football shirt, that's like the holy grail. And I remember my parents, they went for a holiday to London in the late 90s, and they said to me, "Can we get you anything?" And I had looked at the map and I'd seen that Wycombe was not that far away from London. So I said, "Yeah, grab me a Wycombe Wanderers shirt." And they came back with no shirt, and I was like, why was that not possible? And then a couple of years later, my brother went and I asked him to get me a shirt. And he said, "No, I actually went to a couple of stores and they just, looked at me quite funny when I asked for a Wycombe Wanderers shirt." So yeah, I started collecting shirts. And then a couple of years ago, I saw a story about a man who set on a quest to own every single shirt from every nation that's a part of FIFA. And it took him, I don't know how many years. And I looked at my collection and I needed a couple of shirts. So I set on my own sort of mini quest of having all of Wycombe's shirts from the league era.
Wow.
And it did take me some time, but I accomplished it a few years ago. So I have every shirt from our league era.
Fantastic. When you walk around Iceland in your Wycombe Wanderers shirt, do you get many responses? Do people wonder who you are or what the shirt is, or are they immediately saying, Wycombe Wanderers?
Yeah, and my wife, she said, for my two sons, I've always bought them Wycombe shirts. And my wife told me once she went out with with our older one, and she said, "You should have seen heads turning, guys your age, they were wondering, what team is that? What's that boy wearing?" And of course, in recent years, because of bio, people, recognize Wycombe, know Wycombe. And yeah.
There we are. Fantastic. Right then, let's get on with the feature then. We'll start off with something old, and that's your favourite ever memory of Wycombe Wanderers.
Yeah, this was a tough question. You mentioned once on your podcast that football makes people talk. So I'm quite fortunate. I've gotten to know quite a few people, fellow Wycombe fans. I got to know Francis Glenister, who was a part of the Supporters Trust a couple of years ago. And he's actually been to Iceland with his family, and I've met up with him when I've been over. When I went over with my friends, we all turned 30 and we wanted to do something special. And there was a debate of whether to go to Anfield or Old Trafford. So I settled it by throwing in Adams Park, and we went there. And Harold Lunnan, he showed us around the ground. And we stayed in touch after that. He actually came to Iceland a couple of years after that with his wife, Marge, and his daughter, Claire. So I've always been in touch with them. And of course, my friend Darren Keeping from Scotland, we sort of became online pen pals through social media. And we actually met up for the first time because my local team here in Iceland, they qualified for the European competition. So they played in Europe this summer. And I went with my friends to an away match in Ireland. We were playing Dundalk. And he told me, "Well, I'll actually be around there. If you can get me a ticket, I'll meet you there." So we met up. So that was that was brilliant. But like match-wise, or favorite football memories, I have to mention, of course, the FA Cup run. And I remember I was in my room. I was probably it's 20 years ago. I was probably connected to the internet, so the home phone was not available at the time. I was on the family computer with we didn't, and of course you remember, we didn't have flat screens. There was huge tubes, and I was following a very basic match report with a replay with a Wimbledon match.
Wow.
And it just seemed to go on and on and on. And I remember the feeling, Martin Taylor, he saved a penalty just before the match ended. And then in extra time, we conceded right away. And I remember feeling so disappointed because I thought it was over. But then, of course, you followed the whole match, and the penalty shootout, it just dragged on, and following that on like from a match report, that was quite strange. And I remember feeling, is it really over? Have we won? Have we won? Is it over? And I can also remember from that famous cup run, the match against Leicester, it was not shown on television here in Iceland. So I went to a hockey game instead, and my mate, he rang me up and he said, "You're not going to believe this. The match commentator, he was watching I don't remember which match they showed, but he said, the match commentator, he's going mad. Wycombe have won Leicester." And I was like, "Are you having me on?" He said, no, they've won. And a couple of seasons ago, I was following my local team here in Iceland, KA, and they were playing Víkingur or Vikings here in Iceland. And they are managed now by Arnar Gunnlaugsson, who played for Leicester. And I just caught up with him after the match, and I asked him about that match at Filbert Street. And he spoke so kindly of Wycombe. He said, well, it was a shock to all of us at the end, but Wycombe really deserved it.
Amazing. I love this sort of image of you sat on a dial-up internet. Your parents probably going crazy because the phone's engaged for something like 4 hours while Wycombe get through this game against. I was at that game and it was incredibly tense. I can only imagine how tense it must be staring at a screen, waiting for text to appear to tell you something that you haven't even seen. Were you kind of imagining the scenes in your head?
Yeah. And it just showed, I mean, coverage has so evolved in recent years, but they just showed, if there was a, goal or, a card issued or something like that. So you had to wait often quite a while for something to happen. And then I also have to mention, of course, the famous League Cup run, because they were going to show here in Iceland on television the match between Liverpool and Arsenal, but because of bad weather, it was cancelled. And one of my mates, he rang me up and said, they just announced they're showing the Charlton Wycombe match. And I said, no, they're showing the other one. He said, no, it's been cancelled. So I rushed home and I just arrived before kickoff and saw that famous match. And I was so thrilled to actually been able to see a Wycombe match on television in Iceland.
Fantastic. These are brilliant memories, Kristján. I think the one that really grabs me though is the connection with other people, that you feel part of a community, even though you live on a remote island well north of the UK, but you're part of the family. You know people connected with our club. You've been connected with them for tens and combined hundreds of years, and you've made good friends. And I think that's fantastic. And that's what football's all about, right?
Definitely. And speaking of that, I also have to mention the playoff final match at Wembley.
Yes.
Because football makes people talk. I decided to go because I sadly missed the playoff final against Southend because I was away on holiday and I haven't been able to be in two places in one time. I'm still working on that.
Me too.
Yeah, and I decided to go over for the playoff final at Wembley, and I took two of my mates with me, and I decided to. We arrived pretty early to Wembley, and I said, I want to, go into Wembley, sort of take it all in before it starts, because it was my first ever time going to Wembley. And when we came to the stadium or entered the stadium, there wasn't a lot of people in there. But where I sat, there was a gentleman seated next to me, and we started talking. And he was asking me about if the lineup for today had been confirmed. And I told him, and we just started talking. And I asked him, "Did you go see the matches against MK Dons?" And he laughed and he said, I try to attend as many matches as I can, and I've been following Wycombe since the late 40s, I think he said.
Mm.
And then he said to me, "I can tell you're not from around here. You speak with a bit of an accent." And I said, "Yes, I'm from Iceland." And he was just blown away. And I thought it was just so great. He didn't have a smartphone. He had a digital camera, and he said, "Can I have a picture with us?" And I felt kind of famous. I said, "Of course." And then I asked him for a picture, which I took on my phone. And then at halftime, he gave me his name card. And I saw his name, and it said Abbey Road Studios. And I was like so surprised, and I asked him about it. But then the players entered the field for the second half, so we couldn't talk about that. And on the train home, I just looked up his name and saw, Ken Townsend, entrepreneur in sound engineering, worked with the Beatles. I told Darren about this, and he said, "Hold on. Someone who supports Wycombe and has worked with the Beatles, you have to let the club know about this." And which I did, and you did a great interview with Ken.
This is why football's great, because I didn't know Ken, and I love my music, and you connected me with Ken from Iceland. Ken lives about 15 minutes drive from Adams Park, and we got to meet and we found his great stories. But what I love about this is without Ken, there wouldn't have been a Beatles, and we don't know what music would be like today.
Yeah.
But he asked to have a selfie with you, Kristján, and that is why football is so great.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Well, wonderful memories. Let's go on to the modern day now. Your favourite player in the current squad, who is it?
That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. It's like picking your favorite child or something. But honorable mentions, I have to mention David Wheeler. The Swiss Army knife. I think he could probably play in goal for us. I'm also a big fan of Josh Gowen, and I loved, he was a player who came through our ranks. He went on to other clubs, but came back. And I also have to mention, football makes people talk. I loved when you were trying to follow everything and reading the comments in the gas room. I loved how his dad used to comment. Scowen's dad was his nickname, I think. But I think my favorite player in the current squad is Joe Jacobson. He's left-footed. I'm left-footed as well, so yeah.
Yeah, the left footers stick together. And we've often spoken about Joe, but the period at our club has been incredible when he's been at the club. It's been a long time, but what a 10 years it has been under Joe Jacobson almost.
Amazing. And I thought we had sort of maybe a difficult, hard time, after, Mickey Bell, Chris Winicombe, getting someone settled in the left back position. But then we got, Joe, and it's been amazing. And I also have to, your guest the other day, Chris Pratt, he mentioned a former player. I have to mention an ex-former player, which is a favorite of mine, and that's Nathan Tyson. That's also a football memory I have to mention. When I came first over in 2004, early January, and the world was so small back then. We decided, me and my wife, to go for a holiday, and I said, we'll go for a holiday, but I have to go to Wycombe and see a match. And we arrived on the Saturday morning. I didn't have tickets. The club back then had a store in the town center.
Mm-hmm.
I bought tickets, and the lady who was working there, she advised me to take the football bus from the town center to Adams Park. And there was an older gentleman waiting for the bus, and we started chatting, and he was amazed that there was someone from Iceland coming over. And I wish I had a photo of us together, this older gentleman, because he pointed out to me where Lokes Park was. And as you said, football makes people talk. And I thought I was just so amazed by getting to see where, the old ground was. And he pointed out to me, and we had a talk about football, and we came to the stadium. And I remember almost like it was yesterday, sitting in the Frank Adams stand. And then I remember when the team sheet was read out, the people who were next to me, they were not too thrilled about Ian Simpemba playing at left back. And I actually remember the starting 11 from that match. It was Steve Williams in goal, Stephen Taylor on loan at right back, Stuart Nethercott, he had arrived from Millwall, he was playing his first game. Scott Marshall was also there. Ian Simpemba at left back, Danny Bullman and Michael Simpson in midfield, Darren Curry and Jermaine McSporran on the flanks. And up front, debut for Nathan Tyson and Loney Luke Moore from Aston Villa.
Wow. That's another great thing about football, is that I can often struggle what I did last week, but ask me about a match from, 25 years ago. I can tell you exactly what happened, who did what, when, etc., where I was, who I was with. Incredible.
Yeah. And I actually, before, Wanderers TV and iFollow, there was Wanderers World. And I have somewhere on an external hard drive, I have somewhere saved the match highlights from that game in 2004. So I have to find it and upload it and share it, because it was an amazing match. Wycombe won 4-1.
Brilliant. Right then, let's go on to something borrowed. This could either be your favourite ever loanee to play for the club, or the player that you wish that we'd signed that we never did.
Yeah, I could probably have asked or answered the question, which player we signed when I was playing, Championship Manager. You followed the leagues quite closely. I actually remember reading in the gas room, there was a comment. We had recently played Oxford, and someone said, Tommy Mooney, that's a player we should sign. And then we signed him in the summer, and he was absolutely amazing for us. Of course, loanees in recent years, we were so fortunate to have Eberechi Eza from Crystal Palace. He was absolutely amazing. But, that was just a real treat having him, because I think everyone knew he was going on to, bigger things. I was really hoping that we would sign Josh Knight on a permanent basis after he was on loan for us. He was a great player. So I think, Josh Knight, that would be my answer.
Yeah, he's doing really well for Peterborough this season, who are flying at the top of the table as well, and he's playing week in, week out for them too. Yeah, and it's just a shame. It's one of those sliding doors moments of our club that this time we came off on the wrong side of it. But had we stayed in the Championship, he probably would have been our player.
Yeah, exactly. And we've actually had, quite a big ratio of having, loan players that have signed for us permanently. So we've been lucky in that respect.
Yeah, there's something about people who come through the doors at Wycombe, be it on loan, and they often stay around for a long time or come back. There must be something about the atmosphere up there.
Yeah, definitely.
Right then, on to something blue. Now, this could be your favourite ever piece of Chairboys merchandise, or an idea for the club shop to stock something that we're missing out on.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing my favorite piece of merchandise. That's the Avex shirt from late 90s, early 2000s. For me, I think it's like the Mona Lisa of shirts. You know, I just love it. And you know how, you know, Verco, the sponsorship, it just, you know, sort of blends so well in with the shirt, as part of the shirt. I absolutely love it. I think that's my, you know, favorite ever shirt. And it was, speaking of memories, the, there was a group of Icelanders who bought the majority of Stoke City, and they sacked Gary Megson and hired Gudjon Thordarson, who was an Icelandic coach. And the first match he managed was against Wycombe at Adams Park, which Stoke won 4-0, sadly. And they showed this on and on and on the news in Iceland. And this was the first time I actually, you know, saw Wycombe live. So I saw, you know, the Avec shirt on TV, and that sort of, you know, that was the shirt for me. But merchandise-wise, I would love for us to, as an avid shirt collector, I would love for us to do, you know, the one-off shirts that we did. We did a great rainbow shirt. And then, of course, you know, the shirt where we swapped the colors of the quarters in yellow and blue for Ukraine. So I think that would be something. When I come over, I always buy a scarf. So that's something I always look for. And then I found this, car flags.
Ah, yes, the car kits.
Yeah, I absolutely love this, because this was huge when I was a kid. You know, the local clubs in Iceland would have those. And I had another one, which my son had up in his room. So you can see I haven't taken, you know, this out of the plastic. It's still just, you know, kept somewhere safe.
All right, car kits then. So car kits driving around the streets of Iceland. In my mind, I've not been to Iceland, so in my mind, there's not a lot of traffic. So there's not a lot of cars driving around. Is that a dangerous assumption for me to make?
Yeah, you'd be surprised to see all the cars here in Iceland. Yeah. I can't wait to have you over so I can take you to a football match here in Iceland.
It's on my list of things that I need to
Yeah.
do, is to come and visit you and come and see a game. And I must also, if I remember correctly, you saw Ryan Alsop play in Iceland. Is that right?
Yes, I did. We went in recent years. We sort of the match fever, match experience is getting bigger here in Iceland, and we went for an away match. We drove 4.5 hours to Eastern Iceland, and we were quite confident that we were going to beat the team we were playing against. And then there was this amazing goalkeeper who was playing for the local team Höttur, and we just saw this guy. Iceland he should be playing somewhere else. And of course, you know, I think he signed for Leyton Orient. He just played a couple of games, went on to Leyton, Bournemouth, and then of course to Wycombe. And he had an amazing game. He actually saved a penalty. It was a man of the match performance. And I was so thrilled that, you know, he's one of the players. He came to Wycombe on loan, and then he signed permanently. So that was amazing. Yeah.
So you saw what he could do in the flesh in Iceland. Then a few years later, he had an amazing performance at Wembley behind closed doors when we beat Oxford.
Yeah, and that was the match. I saw that match, and that was, you know, I've never felt I was so tired and drained after the match, and I couldn't believe Wycombe were actually going to the championship. I couldn't really celebrate, you know. I was just so exhausted after that match. And it was, of course, a strange match because there was no, of course, you know, fans at Wembley. So it was a kind of a strange match, yeah. And I have to mention one thing, connection, you know, Wycombe, Iceland. My local team, KA, we unexpectedly became champions in Iceland in '89. And our best player then, Toddy Erliksson, he went on to play professionally in England. He was signed by Brian Clough at Nottingham Forest and also played for Stoke and Oldham. And I was reading the Wycombe Wanderers history book. And then I saw, you know, the first ever game at Adams Park was in 1990, Wycombe hosting Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest. And then I was in town, had maybe a couple of beers, saw Toddy at a local pub, bumped into him, and I had to ask him. And I said, Toddy, when you signed for Forest, did you play the first match against Wycombe Wanderers at Adams Park? And he just looked at me, who is this person? And then he said, yes, I did, but how on earth did you know that?
Oh, that's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. Kristján,
And
this
he's
has been brilliant. This has been absolutely brilliant to find the font of knowledge of Wycombe up in Iceland. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to be looking at flights this summer. When's the football season in Iceland? I need to come and watch a game with you.
Yeah, we start early April, and we should go on to sometime in October. So that's the space you have. Yeah, that's the time frame. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to coming out and seeing you in Iceland. On the flip side, when do we see you next at Adams Park?
That's a very good question. My friend Darren, he's been talking to me to see an away match, and there's close to the end of the season against Carlisle.
Yes,
so that's something I'm looking into. But if I'm not able to visit this year, I'm hope to be come next season.
Many thanks to Kristján Sturluson. Hope to see him soon at Adams Park. If you'd like to take part in Till Death Us Do Part, then email media@wwfc.com. Right then, on to Wednesday night, Wycombe Wanderers in the magic of the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, just 2 games from Wembley, then in the league on Saturday away at Cheltenham Town. News of both of those games in next week's Ringing the Blues. In the meantime, come on you Blues.